Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your WWE NXT Takeover Toronto preview and predictions. John, 5 matches have already been announced for this card. I am expecting a sixth to be added to it. Are you ready?
Oh, dude, this takeover on paper, I actually think like it can break that ceiling of being like a top 5 takeover show for me personally. In execution, of course, that's an entirely different matter, but we always do our hype scale before shows, which is one of my favorite parts of preview and predictions, actually. And I would say right now that I really am sitting at a solid 9 out of 10 in terms of anticipation for the show. I can't wait.
I love that you're always a little bit higher than me. I'm sitting at a nice solid 8. Nice solid, shapely, round little 8.
Hey, that's still very high for this show, which is a testament to how well this takeover has been built. And I look forward to discussing each match with you.
Well, do you want to get right into the card and start talking about this thing?
Absolutely, brother. What do you want to start with?
Well, I kind of tried my best to list the matches in order of importance in the description, so I'm going to just go based on that. Let's start things off with Bobby Roode versus Ty Dillinger. Now, this match is one of the matches on this card that I really wanted to talk about the hype package that we got on NXT TV last night, because I thought they did a phenomenal job building to this match.
Oh, dude, this video package, and not to jump the gun here, but the tag team title video package, I thought were two of the best on the show. I loved both of them. And this one, dude, can I just say, and this is coming from a guy, because you're the big Ty Dillinger mark between the two of us, admittedly. So this is coming from me, which hopefully would mean more to some people. I loved that in video package form, they told Ty Dillinger's story here. And it just made me smile like an idiot because I'm like, finally, Ty Dillinger is in a storyline with some meat on its goddamn bones, and this is the payoff. Like, it actually, honestly, it gave me goosebumps in the sense, like, not necessarily that, oh, Ty Dillinger and Robert Roode, big fight feel. No, it's just, wow, Ty Dillinger finally fucking made it, where he's in a takeover match where it necessitates video packages and this hype. I thought it was great. I mean, what did you think of the video package, man, since you broached the subject?
Yeah, man, I thought this was phenomenal. I love that they went back through Dillinger's career and showed his journey to get to where he is right now. And they won't actually say it, but his journey to being the most over babyface in NXT without a championship on his shoulder.
Oh, abso-freaking-lutely. I'm right there with you, my man. It was amazing to see his growth and his story. And he's like, oh, you know, I was gone, and then for 5 years I tried to make my way back. And I love to, can I just say, because if we missed out on this, I'd regret it. I loved how he explained the perfect 10 character as a babyface. It's not arrogance, it's confidence in myself, confidence that I didn't have the first time around. And I love that because I definitely think that strikes a much-needed chord. Like, this isn't just any match for Ty Dillinger. This is a match, this is a stage that he's worked so hard to get to. And that's what makes for a fucking great babyface. And yeah, this match, this video package, really raised the profile of this match for me for sure.
And I mean, the crazy thing is, even though it definitely did raise the profile of this match, it still is, and I don't even know if I could even say arguably, I think it is pretty set in stone, the least important match on this card, because even though this is an opportunity for sort of a long heralded underdog in Ty Dillinger to kind of take that next step, only match on the card that does not have a greater scope of implications. There's no championship. It's not a part of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. So really, it is the least important. But at the same time, if you would ask Ty Dillinger, it's the most important.
Yes. I couldn't have said it any better. And I've thoroughly enjoyed the build-up. I feel like with Robert Roode, they've kept it very simple, but I mean that as a compliment. You know, his heel motivations are simple. He's a dirtbag. He wants to just elevate his own profile. He wants to be the greatest. He wants to be the center of attention. And when things get a little too hot, you know, he checks out and he's like, hey, I got to think about me. And that's really why this started, even at the expense of not necessarily desecrating the memory of Dusty Rhodes, but like, hey, man, this is about Dusty, and you back out, so you put yourself above the guy that really was such a huge part of NXT. And I love that, too.
Desecrate the memory of Dusty Rhodes, but what he did is disrespect it.
Exactly. What I was getting ready to say, Ashton, I got to give NXT credit for this. when we have storylines revolving around people that have died, you know, Eddie Guerrero and Paul Bearer immediately come to mind, obviously. Sometimes it gets not necessarily cringe, but you're like, you know, what territory are we going into here? I thought this was perfect because Bobby Roode didn't even explicitly put down Dusty because he didn't even need to. By him checking out of this tournament and choosing himself and his ego over honoring Dusty Rhodes, that's enough. That's enough. And they worked with that. I felt like it never got tasteless. I felt like it never got abused, which would have made me a little bit uncomfortable. So I feel like they even used that element to perfection. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this match. That said, it's time for you and I to have that conversation that we've been kind of hinting at and hemming and hawing at, you know, in the build-up.
Yep.
Who wins this thing? So
Who
you
wins?
First.
Yeah, that's the big question. And I don't know, man. I'm struggling. I haven't really given it a ton of thought coming into it, but you know, I was hoping that I'd be able to make a decision on the spot, and I'm regretting the decision to not make a decision ahead of time now because I have no idea who I'm going to pick for this.
Do you want me to go while you still have time to think about it?
That works.
Because I'll tell you, and I've been kind of in this camp for a while. I've had my periods of waffling, admittedly, as I always do on preview predictions. I wouldn't be John if I didn't waffle on every fucking match. But I am going to go with Ty Dillinger in the end, and I'm going to lock it. I think Ty Dillinger is going to beat Bobby Roode because you know what? Even in the video package, you know, Bobby Roode, he's just so arrogant saying, oh, he's the perfect loser. He's going to fail on the biggest stage of his life. And I'm like, you know, this really is the biggest stage of his life. And he really is that babyface to the scratch and claw. For him not to get the payoff here, which, I mean, NXT could do. I'm not saying it's outside the realm of possibility. Certainly not. But to me, this is a match. And again, I'm not even the Ty Dillinger mark here. I think Ty Dillinger needs to win this match. Bobby Roode can take the loss, beat the shit out of Dillinger next week on NXT, and he could go right on his merry way. This could be a career-defining moment for Dillinger, and I think they need to put their foot on the gas and give him this fucking win. So, you know what? I'm going Ty Dillinger. Fuck it. And this is one time that even if I'm wrong, I'm unapologetically wrong because I feel like I'm in the right on this one. I really do. So Ty Dillinger for the win.
I can definitely relate to the idea of, you know, I'm going to pick the right decision, whether I believe they're going to go through with it or not. And,
right.
Oh, you know, the biggest reason that I'm struggling for this is because I always, and I feel like this kind of screws me up a lot because a lot of the time I'll do this and then the WWE won't.
Right.
And like, I'll kind of like, you know, they'll make a decision that I don't have a problem with in the present, but then my thing is I'm always looking to the future. I'm always looking to, okay, after this match, depending on the result, what's next for each of these people.
Right.
And I think I just don't know what Dillinger does next if he does win, because really he's already had a match with Nakamura and it was borderline comedy match. It was like, you know, 7 or 8 minutes of tens and Nakamura kind of doing the reverse taunt where he does the same thing back and, you know, that kind of stuff. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't really meant to be taken seriously. And obviously Nakamura won pretty freaking decisively. So I feel like you could tell like the comeback story, like, oh, they had this match so many months ago, but Dillinger's had this huge journey to get here and now he challenges again. But I don't think they'll go with that route. I think if and that's the thing, if Bobby Roode does win this, he's immediately in contention for the NXT title, which actually would make sense because all these rumors are floating around that Joe is going to show up at Survivor Series in some capacity.
See, and I haven't heard anything about those rumors, and honestly, I'm not even going to pay them any mind now if I've gone this long without hearing them.
I've heard rumors on 2 different matches. I've heard a rumor that Shane was going to sub himself out for Joe at Survivor Series. And I've heard a rumor that Joe was going to show up during Lesnar Goldberg and start something with one of those guys, most likely Lesnar, since he's more likely to stick around.
See, I'd put more stock in the Shane theory than the Lesnar Goldberg one, because the Lesnar Goldberg one, to me, and I'm just being honest, that seems more like a product, because I know how badly people want to see Joe and Lesnar climb in the ring together. I'm one of those people, so I can sympathize. But that just seems more like a product of longing. Shane subbing himself, that makes more sense. Because, I mean, come on. Given who Shane is and what he's about, if anybody was going to sub out, of course it would be fucking Shane. So that actually, I can actually put some stock in. The Lesnar one, I think that's completely fallacious. But yeah, I'm just now learning about this.
Wow, I'm actually surprised you hadn't heard about this until now. But yeah, that's what I heard. I reading the dirt sheets, watching videos of people talking about this stuff. This is, it's obviously all speculation, but at the same time, you've got to kind of weed through the BS and figure out what's right and what isn't, because more often than not, there are 8 false stories for every 3 true stories.
Right. Exactly.
But when you hear a similar rumor from more than one source, that's when you have to start taking it seriously. And that's why, because I've heard, the whole Joe showing up at Survivor Series in some capacity from 2 or 3 different sources now. So I'm thinking maybe there actually is a chance it happens. And especially because just logically it makes sense, given that about that match, it's highly doubtful that Joe is going to win the NXT Championship back. And if he does lose, there is nothing left for him to do.
Right.
In the scope of NXT, obviously. I mean, He's got an entire world waiting for him on the main roster. But as far as NXT goes, it really does feel like he's done all that there is to do.
Yeah. I mean, I can certainly understand where you're coming from with that. So, I mean, given that, does that make you inclined to lean towards a Roode victory here? Because
It does, because I don't really know if there are any other heels on the NXT roster who are over talented and credible enough to challenge Nakamura. But at the same time, we were saying that about the women's division, and they just randomly decided to bring in Mickie James for no reason.
Right. So I mean, who knows?
So you know what? I'm gonna shut it all down. I'm gonna say I'm picking Bobby Roode. As much as I don't necessarily support the decision, I am gonna pick Bobby Roode to win.
Hey, and bro, I can't be like, oh, Ashton, you're ridiculous. No, I totally get everything you're saying. I'm picking up everything you're laying down. It's just, to me, and I'll even admit, I guess me picking Dillinger, it's me more just being obstinate and just really stubborn and saying, no, this is the right call. This is the call you need to make. And this is me more, not necessarily a head in the clouds pick for me like I normally make. No, this really is more of a principle pick for me. So I am going to stick with Dillinger, and I hope he goes over, because you want to talk about a moment. I mean, that'd be a great moment for him. But again, I get all the logic in the world why you'd go Roode. So we'll see. We'll see.
All right, that being said, up next, let's talk about the only other match without championship implications. And you know what? I was a little bit premature there, and I honestly will go as far as to say I might have even been a little bit premature with us talking about Roode Dillinger, because there is one other match that has not been officially announced for this card that I think has a really strong chance of happening on it. And if not on this card, then they'll tape it before the show starts and air it next week. That being Liv Morgan, Aaliyah, and Ember Moon versus Billie Kay, Peyton Royce, and a mystery partner.
Right. First of all, who do you think the mystery partner would even be? Do you have any ideas?
Knowing that they're heels, I wouldn't put it past NXT to make it like a Mandy Rose or a Daria Baronato or something like that.
Right.
I don't know if they brought in any other Australians that would fit in with Billie and Peyton. I know Shazza McKenzie has worked there before. I think she is an Aussie, and that maybe she would fit. But I'm not really sure.
Can we agree that regardless of who the mystery partner is, the babyfaces win, or not necessarily? Or do you think the mystery partner aspect gives it to the heels?
I think Ember Moon is gonna pull it home for the babyfaces.
Right. I mean, I would have to assume, because you and I have been saying forever now, Ember Moon's being built for a showdown with Asuka. So I don't know why you would derail her momentum here, unless you'd have maybe Liv Morgan or Aaliyah, most likely, eating the pan this way. In a way, I guess you kind of protect Ember, but I have to agree with you. I do think Ember's going to bring it home. So I'm locking it in for the female baby faces, Ember, Aaliyah, and Liv. So
yeah, and I'm going to say Ember pins the mystery guest, and I'm going to guess Shazza McKenzie as the guest.
All right, sounds good to me, brother.
All right, well, now that we got that out of the way, we can move on to the only match left on this card that has been officially announced that is not a part of a championship picture. The Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic Finals. And I'm so happy this year that they're not building an entire pay-per-view around this tournament. I think that they've done an excellent job using NXT TV and even house shows to build up the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. And now There's only one match on this show, and it will not be the main event, and I love that. And we have the Authors of Pain, Akam and Rezar, taking on TM61, Nick Miller and Shane Thorne, but we will have Paul Ellering suspended above the ring in a cage.
Yes. You know what? I'm going to be honest. I've done a lot of waffle. I think the most where I've waffled, if I'm being forthcoming with everybody, is this match and the tag team title
going
match.
First a lot. Let me take this one.
You know what, brother? You got it. You go first, and I'll say what I need to say.
Because I already see two people picking Authors of Pain in the chat, and I don't feel like that is really a sort of risky pick. I feel like the AOP is the massive favorite to win this match. I think that at AOP and TM61, you would say, yeah, those big, scary guys in the vests are going to obliterate the skinny white boys. But what I'm going to say is, if you look at NXT, they love their long, slow burn storytelling. And AOP faced TM61 in a match a few months ago on NXT TV and slaughtered them. And then at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, they had a rematch, and TM61 was the first team to really take the Authors of Pain to the limit. They almost won. AOP still ended up taking away the victory, obviously, but I think NXT is telling a progressive story here where TM61 is getting closer and closer to beating the Authors of Pain each match, and I think that is going to culminate in TM61 winning this match and the Dusty Rhodes Classic. And if that's not enough reason to convince you, realize that the NXT higher-ups are going to want to have some kind of celebration, some kind of ceremony with the winners of the tournament, which greatly increases the odds of a babyface team being the victor. That's exactly why I thought going into this that there was a chance that Hideo Itami and Kota Ibushi would be in the finals, because I thought that either they were going to win or Ibushi would be the one to take the loss. But I think that with the story they're telling now with TM61, I think there's a really good chance of TM61 winning this. I think Paul Ellering being suspended above the ring is the ultimate out, where AOP can say they didn't have their advisor at ringside to give them a game plan and to keep them focused. And you could even probably have, and if you're not going to give the tag titles to DIY, you could give them to TM61 at the next pay-per-view, which I believe will be in Australia or New Zealand, one of the two. And then you could have the AOP come back and say, hey, we would have beaten you guys if it wasn't for Ellering being suspended. We should get a title shot. And obviously they would have to earn their way to that thanks to Regal's intervention. But I think that that's a more complete story than just having the AOP slaughter TM61 on the show and then challenge for the tag titles.
Well, I gotta say, I mean, for me to say AOP now, I look like a complete jackass. But what I was getting ready to say before you laid out your comprehensive prediction,
I didn't want to try and shame people who are picking AOP, because it really is where the smart money is. But what I'm saying is, if TM61 does win, I think I know why, and I'm calling it. I'm calling my shot. Even if it is a long shot, I'm calling my shot.
I meant it as a compliment, because that's such comprehensive and forward thinking that, first of all, kudos to you. I'm so glad you interjected and you wanted to go first, because it was worth it for that. But what I was getting ready to say at the start, this and the tag title match I have waffled on the most, which in a way kind of makes me smile, because I do love the tag team division in NXT, and I love that that's where most of my doubt is, because there are so many viable players right now. Yep. Again, I mean, your entire layout, not a beat of it didn't make sense to me. Like, it all made sense. It was all very coherent, comprehensive. The only thing, and here's the thing, I am going to go TM61, because, again, that was probably the most persuasive argument I've ever heard since we've been doing preview and predictions. Like, again, I'm just amazed how thorough that was. But the only thing that does concern me, because I've seen at least one other match, right, where a person was suspended above a cage. I believe it was one of the In Your Houses. It was Triple H versus Owen Hart for the European Championship, and China was suspended above a cage. And usually when you have gimmicks like that, there are always shenanigans. Always some way that the person in the cage gets out of the cage and causes a ruckus. And I'm like, well, if that happens here, I could see AOP capitalizing and winning the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. But that is just a minor fucking threat in everything you pointed out. One of the biggest factors being not even anything to do with the ensemble of people we're dealing with, but more so that it is the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. It is a tribute tournament, and you'd think in that vein, it should just go to a babyface team, given, as you said, the ceremony and everything. So I am going to go, albeit somewhat tentatively, with TM61, because it really does seem like a secure pick given all the logic. But man, I'll tell you, I'm just going to say right now, I would not be surprised if AOP won. And, like, I don't think you would be either, because, like you said, that's what smart money is.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, would I be surprised? I wouldn't be surprised if either team won, because if you do have AOP win, then really you're just kind of doubling down on them. You're saying not only are these guys dominant because they have, the size and power and the mentorship of Ellering, but they can win without him too. These are they're sentient monsters that can think for themselves.
Yeah. And you know what? I mean, the thing is, if AOP were to lose, again, like you said, it is a great out because Ellering, who really is kind of the brains that coordinates the muscle, wasn't even there. So I think I'm going to hop on board with you because I really loved your layout for the future of the division going forward when you put all the pieces together and say TM61. At the same time, though, I should just say, I don't know when we're going to get to the tag title match, but that doesn't necessarily alter my pick for the tag title match, which, admittedly, I only say that because I think I'm still waffling even now. So, yeah, TM61 to win the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. I like where you're going with this.
All right, well, we'll take a little break from tag team action. I'm assuming that the match we're about to talk about will end up being the semi-main event, although it definitely has not earned that spot like it used to, like the women's division used to. But we've got Asuka versus Mickie James for the NXT Women's Championship. And all respect in the world to both of these women, but there's been literally no build to this whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said something, partner. I'll go first on this one because I am going to sound like such a dick here. Well, maybe not, but I've just got to be honest. I don't care about this match at all. And I feel like this match, it's relying so heavily on the value of the name of Mickie James. And to me, like, I've always liked Mickie James. I even came to her defense when they did that whole Piggy James storyline, which I was utterly disgusted by. And I'm like, Mickie deserves better than this. Like, what the fuck? And so I have defended her. I have been a fan of hers, but like, I don't really see the connection. And I got to be honest, too. And again, this may be where I really sound like a dick. You and I listened to the TakeOver Toronto conference call that Triple H did. And I'm sorry, I had to call bullshit when he said, Mickie was absolutely always our first choice. In fucking Toronto. Really? I'm sorry, dude. I can't believe that personally.
No, they definitely wanted Trish for sure, but I think Trish Stratus is actually pregnant right now.
Yeah, and that's why people were making jokes like Trish's husband is the greatest heel of all time because he like totally ruined that match for everybody. But
you robbed us.
But I'm actually glad because for as much as I like Trish, I've heard that she can be a little bit stuck up or political. Like I don't know if she'd be comfortable putting Asuka over. Whereas here, I feel like Mickie has no problems doing
Wow, I did not, and I'd never heard that rumor, but I'm not even surprised.
Well, I mean, especially in Toronto, she's like, "Oh, I'm losing. Yeah, let me call you back." And Mickie, consummate professional. I know she's probably gonna make Asuka look like $1 million, but I mean, this is kind of the problem you have when you have a champion like Asuka and you give her the aura that you've given her. Is like now you've got to build up this division, which is why that segment on the last episode of NXT that we covered, the Go Home show with Aaliyah and Liv and everybody, kind of made me smile because I'm like, well, this is our division. These are the inheritors of the division. These are the people we're going to be building up. And I'm still just looking ahead. All due respect to Mickie James, I am still 150% fixated on Asuka Ember Moon because those two are going to fucking kill it when they share a ring together for the first time for all of us to see because they've already been killing it at live events. So Asuka for the easy win. There's not really much to say here. Asuka wins. She moves on with her reign. Mickie, I'm sure, gives a great performance. I hope this isn't the last time she does WWE-related business. I don't know if she'd want to be a coach or something like that. But, yeah, I mean, for this, I don't really see any chance for winning. Asuka wins, hands down.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Asuka winning isn't even, you know, I even had a thought earlier today, like, what if they decide to have Mickie James win the title only for the sake of kind of giving Asuka that push over the edge into heeldom so that Asuka can go full-blown kick-ass heel and just obliterate Mickie at the next takeover, get the title back, but as a heel.
Right. I mean, that would be an interesting idea, right? You give the legend the one last run, and then she gets obliterated by this newly invigorated, almost like Joe, you know, with him destroying Nakamura as of late.
That's what I was thinking,
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can totally get where you're coming from, dude. I could see that. But the thing is, I feel like they want to tell a different heel story with Asuka where it's just straight up hubris that really is validated, which is refreshing. Yeah. And I don't think that's going to be derailed anytime soon until Ember Moon steps up. So yeah, I'm still going to say Asuka for the win.
I definitely agree with you there. I tried to make it interesting, but there's only so much you can do when you're handed something like this. So let's get to, I mean, in all honesty, should be the main event of this show, but will probably end up being the, you know, third last match on this card, if not the opener. The Revival versus DIY, 2 out of 3 falls for the NXT tag titles. Now, here, this right here, this situation, I think, is a beautiful example. Even in the context of NXT, the WWE is still really out of touch. Because if they gave the actual main event spot, meaning the last match on the card, to the match that deserves it most, to the most important match, to the match that's been built up the most, to the match that's probably going to be the best match and arguably a match of the year candidate, then last year, Becky, Sasha, and Bayley, Sasha would have been main events before Bayley, Sasha's Iron Man match ended up main eventing a show.
Right.
And this year, this match would main event this show. I understand Joe Nakamura, but here's the thing. It's a rematch from a match that we just had a couple months ago in Brooklyn. The babyface is the champion, so you're not really cheering for him to lose. And the odds of a title change are slim to none. This match is the complete opposite of that. The only exception being we've seen it before. So You've got heel champions now that people are desperate to see drop those titles. Desperate, John.
Yeah.
You've got a red-hot babyface team going after them, nipping at their heels. The people want the title to change hands and to really just put some sprinkles on that Sunday. It's 2 out of 3 falls, which means it's easily going to be match of the night and very possibly a match of the year type of match.
I mean, brother, everything you just articulated, I echo 1,000-fold. The video package this feud got was
Johnny Gargano's face when he realizes that he just cost them the titles.
Yeah. That, and I'm telling you,
ladies and gentlemen, you know, in pro football, there's kind of this thing where you always want to be the first person to crown Johnson, who is the best running back in the football in, you know, the world right now in the NFL. There were people last year where if you were on him and you were saying that he's going to be amazing in the draft process, you look like a genius right now. You look amazing because he is the best running back in the league right now. In pro wrestling, we kind of do the same thing where we like to watch the indies or NXT or whatever. We like to watch people rise through the ranks, and we like to kind of pick our guys that we think can be the top guy, or women that can be the top woman. And I am telling you right now, if you want to be ahead of the curve on the rest of the wrestling world, on who the next Daniel Bryan is going to be, Johnny Gargano is got to be the lead favorite in that category.
Dude, let me tell you something, and I'm not saying the Revival or Ciampa, didn't do their part. Like, everybody here has been fantastic, but Johnny Gargano really has been one of the standouts with his performances, particularly on the go-home show when we get to see his face again after the tap out and the loss. And then when he's talking about it, when he's reflecting on it, and he says, if we don't win here, what the hell did we do it all for? And it's like, shit. It just cuts you like, I'll tell you, because here's the thing. People need to understand, and I'm so glad I can say this now that the American Alpha, who I can't wait to talk about for Survivor Series preview predictions, are going to be representing SmackDown in the tag team match. But now that the Revival has NXT all to themselves, these guys are fucking incredible at what they do. And when they carry the tag titles, it feels like that is everything to them. Like, you have to kill us to take this from us, because the last people to take it from us, American Alpha, lost it one event later because we're that fucking good. And my thing is, it's great that the heels are passionate about being champions, but it's even better when faces are passionate about making them ex-champions. Like, we are going to beat you. And you can sense that passion really from both DIY, but especially Gargano, because now he's carrying this moral burden of like, oh man, if I just hadn't tapped out, if I was just able to last. And it's a great fucking story. This isn't just about...
And that's the thing, too. Like, you can make all these connections with him and Bryan, too, because Bryan, for the longest time, was a loser in the WWE. He lost more than he won.
Right. Yeah.
And now, I mean... Now, here's the thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that Tommaso Ciampa is a scrub. I've been a fan of Ciampa longer than I've been a fan of Gargano. Ciampa was my guy years ago when I was still an ROH fan. And really, the fact that they refused to push him was one of the reasons that I fell out of love with Ring of Honor.
Right.
Because, you know, between him and Mike Bennett and different guys that had a certain charisma and a mic ability over just being able to work in the ring, which everyone in ROH can do, didn't get pushed. And because of that, I felt like they were doing themselves a disservice, and I stopped watching eventually. So Ciampa is a phenomenal talent. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. I don't necessarily know if he's going to be a world champion on the main roster. I think he'll be a steadfast figure on both Raw and SmackDown for a decade, easily. But I don't know if he's going to ever be a world champion. And if he does, it'll be as a heel, for sure.
Right.
Johnny Gargano, though, has a special element about him where he can force you to empathize with him. Not a lot of people have that. Very few people in the wrestling business have that. And it's something that Daniel Bryan had that made him extremely unique. And it's one of the biggest reasons he got as over with the crowd that he did. And another element of it was amazing in-ring talent, which we both know Johnny Gargano definitely has.
I mean, his nickname is Johnny Wrestling, for God's sakes. He is so good at what he does. All four of these men are, and that's where you get tag.
And the weird thing, too, is I think if you would pull 100 women, or 1,000 or 1,000,000 or whatever, I think that probably a much higher percentage of them would say that Johnny Gargano is a really good-looking guy than would say that about Daniel Bryan. So he's also got more mainstream appeal in that sense than Daniel Bryan ever had.
Oh, certainly. I think what you have got here, and you said it at the outset, you have got the ingredients for a match of the year candidate. And 2 out of 3 falls. I mean, the Revival had 1 2 out of 3 falls bout before with American Alpha, and I'm ready to give the Revival American Alpha my feud of the year. However, I'll tell you, and I didn't expect this. I mean, the Revival could still win it, but we may have to swap out, or I may have to swap out, I should say, American Alpha with DIY, because the tag team division on NXT and the body of work in the tag division for NXT in 2016 has been fucking breathtaking. Like, it's fucking beautiful what they've done this year. And this rivalry is no exception. It's just another iteration of that trend. That said, I expect an absolute barn burner between these two teams. Who wins? Because here's the thing. In a prior matchup, Dusty Rhodes Tag Classic Tournament Finals, we both agreed TM 6-1 to win. So logic would say...
Wait, do you mean DIY, right?
Well, I'm talking about Dusty Rhodes Tag Classic because I'm referring to a prior match to make my point. Because I'm saying, like, they're going to win the Dusty Rhodes Tag Classic, and we agreed on that, right? TM 6-1 to win.
Right.
So, and I've been saying a lot, for my thing is that, well, I would imagine the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic tournament winners, since they're both actual legit tag teams this year, which is fucking great to say, that, sooner or later they're going to gun for the champion. So it would make sense if TM61 were to win, that the Revival would walk out, but I'm not so sure. I really do feel like it is Gargano and Ciampa's time. It is DIY's time. And tentatively, I'm really, this is probably the most torn I am about any match on the TakeOver card. But I am going to say DIY wins the NXT Tag Team titles. I don't know what they're going to do if TM61 decides to gun for him down the road. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. For now, Team DIY, I think, is finally going to win those NXT Tag Team titles to probably a massive pop after a huge fucking clinic between two amazing teams. So DIY for the win.
Well, John, let's look back to last year, because past events are always the best way to try and figure out what's going to happen in the future. We had that was the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, but let's look at TakeOver Brooklyn from last year, because this year at TakeOver Brooklyn we had DIY versus Dawson and Wilder, right?
Right.
So last year our tag title match was when the Vaudevillains won the tag titles from Blake and Murphy.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that match.
Okay. So then we had TakeOver Respect, and in the time between TakeOver Respect and I believe TakeOver London, it was either between them or between Brooklyn and Respect, the Revival won the titles from the Vaudevillains.
Right.
They also, over that course of time, defended successfully, I might add, the titles against Enzo and Big Cass, right?
Yes.
And then at NXT TakeOver London, they did it again against Enzo and Cass, right?
Right.
Then Enzo and Cass were basically done in NXT. They were just, that's it. They were done.
Right.
I think something similar to that's going to happen here. I think the Revival is on their way up, and I think that even though we are going to have DIY holding the titles here, let's also remember that the winners of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic last year, Joe and Balor, never even challenged for the tag titles.
Right.
So I don't think that the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic is necessarily something that is going to grant you an automatic title shot.
I can see where you're coming from, but I mean, we have to remember two big things. One, again, like you and I both have noted positively, the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic really feels like a legitimate tag team classic this year. And two, I think the only reason Joe and Balor never really gone for the tag titles is because Joe had his eyes on a bigger prize, and that was the NXT Championship, which Balor held, which just overshadowed everything. None of those contingencies are at play here, so the playing field might change. Just putting that out there. You might be right.
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah. You're right. I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
And I think the Vaudevillains were actually eliminated relatively early last year in the Tag Classic, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
And who were they eliminated by?
The
Dash and Dawson, of course.
Exactly. Yeah.
God damn it. Okay, well, who eliminated Ciampa and Gargano?
AOP after the Ellering distraction and the Revival's run-in.
Damn, do we have to change our pick to AOP after I gave that impassioned plea to give TM61 a chance?
No, dude, I still say TM61, but I also say DIY. How NXT wants to resolve it, that's up to them. I don't know, because I doubt TM61 will turn heel, but...
I'm making the save. Sanity is going to be the first team to challenge for the tag titles after this.
Okay. I like that. I mean, who better, right? I mean, they're still a great...
TM61 handed Sanity their first loss. That's actually perfect, isn't it?
Yeah. So there you go. It all comes together. I'm telling you, tag team division's fucking just popping right now.
It's amazing, dude. I think, I mean, here's the thing. Oh, God damn it. Nobody is picking the Revival to win, and that scares the shit out of me.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I feel like it's a similar atmosphere to take over London, because I know even you and me.
It is. It really is, though, isn't it? And it's even the same team. It's not the same reign, but it's the same team.
Yeah, because I know even you picked Enzo and Cass, and I might have agreed with you on previous predictions, but I know on Pletov I picked the Revival, and then when the Revival won, I was like, yes. But yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. The Revival seems like that team that when nobody bets for them, that's when they come out on top. Or I should have said, like, when everybody bets against them, they come out on top. And that seems like another case here where everybody's betting against them because, you know, logic says baby faces get their due, heels get their comeuppance, but maybe not, you know? And that's the crazy thing. Maybe not.
Oh, man.
Because, dude, I mean,
every title going to be... Dude, and it's even the same time of year as London was last year. It is literally 1 month before when London happened last year.
Right. And, I mean, look, I don't want to
And what was iconic about London? Every title was retained when we expected every title to change hands.
Exactly. And look, I don't want to start floating that fantasy booking around, but the only way I could forgive the Revival retaining is if in a packed house in Toronto, Ciampa just beats the shit out of Gargano. Because Gargano even said in that video package, I cost us the tag titles. You didn't hear Ciampa step in and disagree with him.
Dude, that would be too good. Yeah, no, you know what? I'm sold. I'm done. I'm picking Revival to retain, believe it or not. I'm going there.
You're leaving me alone in this boat. Motherfucker.
I have to because TM6-1 versus the Revival is going to happen then, and Ciampa and Gargano are going to end up feuding after this. Yes, I'm picking them. I'm going for it.
You know what? Before we depart from this match, because I may make a last-minute change, let me just emphasize what I just said. That was one thing that I caught in the video package, and you know how, guys, anybody that knows me, you know I love obsessing over little details. When Johnny Gargano was having his guilt trip, I don't remember Ciampa ever pulling him out of the water. He let him have it, almost as if to say, yeah, it was your fault, and I want you to realize it. Could Ciampa turn on Gargano at Toronto?
Oh, my God. I don't know. Here's the thing. I do not think he's going to turn on him to cost them the match. And I don't even know if I'm going to go as far as to say that I'm going to pick him to turn on Gargano after the match. It might be a little bit slower of a burn where, you know, you kind of get those like sideways glances and they go on a losing streak until Ciampa finally snaps.
Right.
Oh my God. But yeah, dude, I have to pick the Revival now. I will be relentlessly cheering for DIY, but I have to pick the Revival now.
You know what? I feel like we might be on the cusp of a reverse London because, again, I changed my pick last minute to the Revival when it was Enzo and Cass, and I benefited. And I feel like you might benefit this time around because this one time I just can't feel compelled to go with the Revival. I think I'm going to stick with DIY. But like I said, biggest fucking toss-up on the card was this match, guys.
Really, this and the winners of the Dusty Classic, the two tag matches are the two least predictable matches. And I love that because really they're almost dependent on each other because you would expect if DIY wins for rather other way around, if TM6-1 wins, you'd expect Revival to retain. If AOP wins, you would expect DIY to win. So in that sense, I almost from a consistency perspective, I almost have to pick the Revival to retain because of how adamant I am that TM6-1 is winning the Classic.
And you know what? I am going to create that tension. I am going to create that booking tension. I am going to stick with TM6-1, but I'm also going to stick with DIY. I want to see what NXT will do with it if that is the result. But, man, this 2 out of 3 falls match, I'm going to be glued and on the edge of my fucking seat. This match is going to personify what Twitwell Live reactions are all about because I just feel myself that I'm going to pop the fuck off. This is going to be great.
Dude, you want to talk about a match that's going to personify Twitwell Live reactions? Just wait until June rolls around. You'll see.
Oh, my God, yeah. Yeah.
So that being said, I think we have our answers locked in. You're picking DIY. I'm picking the Revival, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's get to our main event, which shouldn't necessarily be the main event because of the match we were just talking about. Samoa Joe versus NXT champion Shinsuke Nakamura for the championship. I'm just going to come right out and say it. I got Nakamura for the win here, and I think Joe's getting called up on Sunday or Monday. Or Tuesday, I guess. I don't know.
And you know something? God damn it. But I gotta be honest, because I came in here wanting to do it, and I'm gonna leave this video wanting to do it. I think Joe's gonna regain the championship. So I'm picking Joe. You know what? Because I had only heard about these rumors last minute. And that's the thing. Like, I swear to you that these were new to me.
Dude, yeah. You want to talk about rumors? Here's another rumor. I actually heard a rumor that Shinsuke Nakamura is supposed to be like the new Finn Balor, and as the face of NXT, he's going to stick around for way longer than anyone should at his skill level.
Well, you know what? And that pisses me off because, you know what? That is a rumor I have seen. Admittedly, I've seen the same rumor. That angered me to no end, but I won't get into that here. But you know something? I don't know, man. Like, I just feel like the story here, yes, Joe brutalized Nakamura. And I can understand all the sense in the world. Well, Nakamura has to get his revenge, right? But it seems like Joe has taken Nakamura to a place where he's angry. He's prone to violence. Like, he's attacked security multiple times just because he wants to get his hands on Joe. I think the story may be that his judgment is skewered because of his passion to want to hurt Joe rather than beat Joe. And Joe, I think, is going to capitalize. So you know what? I say Joe wins. I say Joe becomes
okay, so then my question to you is, after this match, if Joe does win, who's his first opponent after this match?
I say his first opponent after this match, and I'm sticking with my guns there too because I picked Ty Dillinger earlier. I say Ty Dillinger and Joe have a TV feud for the title. It doesn't go to a takeover, but they have a TV feud.
That's plausible. I love it. I love that the Dillinger-Roode match is kind of indirectly tied to this match in the similar way that the Dusty Rhodes Classic match is tied to the NXT Tag Title match. I really like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you and I have been regardless of what positions we've taken, we have been consistent in that line of thought, at least. Like, these matches have a relationship with each other. And I do think, because, dude, I'm already visualizing the segment. You know, Dillinger wins at Toronto, and then maybe either the week after Toronto or the NXT after Toronto, or, you know, the second episode after Toronto, Dillinger has a segment. He walks into Regal's office and he says, you know, that was a breakout moment for me. I'm ready for the next step. I want the NXT championship. And then Dillinger starts taking the fight to Joe. Again, this is not a feud that would make a takeover because that would be Shinsuke and Joe 3. But I do think it is something that would happen in the meantime. So you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to spit in the face of the odds. And unlike Dillinger, which was a principled pick, this is my obligatory, oh, John. And everybody kind of laughs around me while I cry myself to sleep pick. I'm going with fucking Joe to win. Because
I mean, it is worth noting that Nakamura is still undefeated. And he's only been around since since April. So it's not like it's, you know, they're clearly building an undefeated streak, and I think it's still relatively young.
Right, and that's fair. Look, all the points in favor of Nakamura retaining are fair. It's just I feel like the story here, or at least what I've kind of extrapolated from it, Joe has got Nakamura incensed. And an incensed babyface like Nakamura, who usually is so calm, lets his, you know, in-ring skills do the talking, Joe has gotten to him. Joe has evoked an emotional response from Nakamura, and I could see the babyface kind of being blindsided by that and making miscalculations that cost him. That's what I think the story being told here is. I think Joe is going to capitalize on it. Does that mean Joe wouldn't even lose the title back to Nakamura in the rematch? Absolutely not. We may be doing, because what's the next takeover after this, Ashton? Japan? Or
no, I think it's going to be New Zealand.
So yeah, I mean, takeover New Zealand. I could very easily say, yeah, Nakamura is getting the belt back because I never know with NXT. But for this show, just my gut tells me Joe is going to get the belt back. And if he loses, I mean, come on, people. You know that I've gotten used to Taze to Crow by now. But yeah, just feels like a different kind of story. So I'm picking Dillinger for the one and Joe for the other. And I hope that those guys meet down the road. So that's my full...
That would definitely be interesting. I would love that as a fan, but I'm just going to pick the easy one. It's funny because I made like this big like pulpit speech about not necessarily going with the easy pick for the Dusty Tag Classic, but I have to make the easy pick here. I think Nakamura retains and keeps his undefeated streak alive.
You know what? And dude, again, for all of your picks on this, as per usual, I mean, you've taken very rational stances. I can't argue with any of it, though I must say, there is a hilarious irony here that I am the one that constantly, even though, of course, it's always in a joking way, deriding Ty Dillinger and denigrating him, and yet I'm going all in on him here. not just with him winning, but for the heel to get the strap back so that he can bump shoulders with him in the fucking locker room, and then that suddenly turns into a TV feud. I just find that funny that I'm really putting all my chips on the fucking perfect 10 of all people. So, yeah, Toronto should be a very fun show for sure. I can't wait for this.
Absolutely, and it's in 2 days, but in between that time, John, you and I will be up here tomorrow, same TwitWow time, same TwitWow place on YouTube, talking about Survivor Series coming up on Sunday with our preview and predictions. And in case those of you who weren't sure when this started, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, 5 p.m. Pacific, or 1 a.m. on Saturday morning if you're in the UK.
Yes. So it seems like a very accommodating time for all TwitWow fandom to congregate for our Survivor Series preview and predictions. We hope you enjoyed TakeOver Toronto preview and predictions. I'm foaming at the mouth for this show, particularly that 2 out of 3 falls NXT Tag Title match. Partner, any concluding remarks you have?
I don't have any concluding remarks, so I think we should just close it out right here. This show looks like it's going to be a freaking phenomenal, especially the tag match. But we will be live reacting to it on Saturday as it happens. And I know you all want to stay tuned for that, but also Survivor Series preview predictions tomorrow, and then Survivor Series live reactions on Sunday, and then on Wednesday, the world explodes because we are going to have John live reacting to Johnny Mundo versus Sexy Star for the Lucha Underground World Heavyweight Championship. The gift of the gods cash-in is real, people. Hype it up and stay tuned.